What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have a familiar face. We have Hanley all the way from Scotland, and she does a very fantastic job building her business. But before we get into that, Hanley, you and Sam are like 28 people away from 1,000 subs. So everyone needs to stop right now, go to the Business and Banter Podcast, and click subscribe over there to get you guys to 1,000 subs. I don't listen to a lot of reseller content. However, I do always listen to the Business and Banter podcast. I enjoy your guys' thoughts about reselling, about business, about women being in business, about disappearing flights every now and then. I enjoy all of it. So I'm there for all of it. So I always enjoy talking to you. We always have great, fantastic conversations that I think are helpful to a lot of people. So, maybe introduce yourself a little bit, and then how was 2024? It's the first time we're talking to you, and it feels like almost a year now.
It's been so long. I
I
don't know
know.
what happened. Like I was on and then I was on a couple of times and then it disappeared. But
Yeah, and then I started
it,
doing solo ones, and then
I know.
I got
No,
tired of
they're
doing
good.
solo ones, so now we're back.
I love the solo ones.
I
Like my
appreciate it.
personal favorites are just listening to you talk about business. So I'm all for those ones. Um, yeah, it's been good. We're still growing our business. We're still doing car parts. We're looking at expanding a bit. 2024 didn't quite hit the way I wanted it to, but I grew the business by just shy, 0.2% shy of 100%. So that's nothing to sniff at or nothing
No,
to, even though missing by point 0.2 is pretty embarrassing,
pretty
but
embarrassing,
it
but point
is.
two is still like hundreds of thousands of dollars, so you'll be okay.
Yeah, so we didn't quite hit it, but we did make a lot of ground and we set ourselves up to have a great 2025. And sometimes that puts you a little back in the moment, but it's going to help you get ahead so much more. So I'm also not above shamelessly plugging the fact that my podcast is so close to 1,000. So if everyone could just go over there and get us over the hill.
Yes.
We talk a lot about reselling, but I'm
Yeah.
also very into conspiracy theories. So at least once an episode, I say something crazy, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a little Easter egg. It's my favorite part of
yes.
the podcast is where at what time is Hanley going to go left? And how is Sam going to get it back on track? That's my favorite part.
That's the best part, watching Sam trying to save the conversation after I've gone completely off the rails.
Yes.
I actually didn't do it in one episode, and I had so many messages of like, why didn't you tell us anything? And so now it's just become standard.
That's
Um,
absolutely.
But I'm very excited to be back. I have so many thoughts. One of my most favorite things in the world to do is to bring you all my thoughts, all my bright ideas,
Yes.
right? And then you just tell us what you think. We have some questions. I am just going to put it out there that I'm 3 for 3. The last three bright ideas I had, you signed them all off.
I did. And that's after like being O for the century. Like you were O for
Yes,
100 and now you're 3 for 3.
I
The
know.
one last night, that was a big signature on that one. That was a great idea. So hit us with some bright ideas, what you've been thinking about, what you've been working on, what you've been wondering. And this is my kind of favorite part of always talking with you is that you always have like very good ideas. Even the ones that don't get the sign or seal of approval are still good ideas, but maybe just not for right now, and maybe just not for you right now.
Yeah. I like to think broad, bring all the stuff. So, I've got
Mhm.
some things I've been working over in my mind and in my head, and we're just gonna roll with it. Might solve some mysteries, who knows? But
Okay.
one of the first things, and I think this is 2024 taught me this a lot, is a lot of us in my business, particularly, I try to plan my growth as you should. Like we have Tagonomics video, which is great. We plan our growth. But there is a balance where if we get stuck in being comfortable, if we get stuck in what we're doing, life is going to force you to grow at some point. All right. And I unfortunately stayed in situations where I felt comfortable and then life kicked my ass and forced
Mhm.
me to have to do better. And having to do better under those circumstances is so much harder than just doing it when you are able to gradually. And so to give an example of this, I had to go up for some taxes and then I had to increase my business where I had the capability of increasing before that. I didn't feel the need to, or to be quite honest with you, I didn't want to be uncomfortable again because growing is very uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
so sometimes I'd put it off until you're in a situation where you get forced to do it. I know there's a lot of people who are aiming at smaller stores, minimal effort, pay the bills. That's a great model to have. But lately, I've been realizing so much more about the implications of inflations. And the world is going to outgrow that model, whether you want to believe it or not.
That's right.
The world will outgrow your comfort zone way before you're ready to make a move.
The most amount of hate I've ever gotten in the comments was having this conversation 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I had this conversation that inflation is going to catch up and kick people's butts, and you're going to have to work harder for the same amount of money. And back then, people didn't want to hear it, but that is the truth. And, like if you want to make people laugh, the best thing to do is tell them your plans. Your plans are great, but like when it actually comes down to it, they never work out how they're supposed to work out. But that's also part of life. And like we should expect the unexpected. And for like you last year, you had a lot of things come up and you were fortunately prepared, and you were able to handle them. But, it did kind of maybe disrupt the plan or make the plan go sideways or maybe even delay the plan a little bit. But I am a 1000% believer in that inflation, the economy, groceries. Like we went to McDonald's, my wife and I, it was $34. We go to Taco Bell, my wife, me, and my son, it's $65. Like you gotta really be selling a lot of items on eBay if you want to go to McDonald's or Taco Bell these days. And like we're not even counting the thrift store going up, gas going up, groceries, insurance, labor, your rent, your mortgage, all of this stuff keeps going up. So like if you plan to kind of sit and be comfortable and stay the same forever, like there is a point where it is no longer viable and you're either going to be forced to grow or forced to fold it up. That's the bottom line.
And all of the things you just mentioned isn't far out things. It's not like you said, when I go to fill up my Bugatti, it's now costing me £2,000. You're like, when
Sure.
I get a McDonald's. A
Yeah.
McDonald's is something that most of us take for granted as just a given. You can go to
Yeah.
McDonald's, you can get one. It's not for the rich, it's not out of our reach.
No.
It's a
No.
McDonald's, right?
Right.
So what last year taught me is that I can either preempt and be the best I can be every day and grow even when it's uncomfortable, or life is going to force me to do it anyway. And let me tell you, that is not comfortable at all. It's
Sure.
also very stressful. You aren't able to plan out as much as you can. And I hear so many people, and we talk to a lot of people who want to keep it small and tight, and that's good. That's also a business model. My fear for these type of situations is that what you have now is sufficient. With the way the economy is going, in 2 years' time, it won't be sufficient
That's right.
at all. Like things are
100%.
changing so abruptly, especially, I mean, in America at the minute, where your comfort zone now will be non-existent within 18 months to 2 years. And so
100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah.
And so how do we safeguard our business against those type of things?
It's a really good discussion. And again, the most amount of vitriol and hate in the comments that I got is when I recommended people to do more work for the same amount of money. And that's ultimately what it is. And what we have to do as business owners, as human beings, as people that are providing for loved ones and family, we have to be able to outpace whatever kind of rising costs or inflations there are. Otherwise, we get buried and we get put under. And like you're saying, there's two options. Option number one is to be proactive and to stay ahead. Option number two is be reactive and try to catch up. For me personally, I would rather try to build and structure my business in a proactive manner where I can stay ahead of whatever's to come. I like to be 5 years ahead of whatever I think is coming. I like to make moves 5 years ahead of whatever I think is coming. Back when COVID was first popping off, we talked about this. When they were printing more money in the history of the United States of America in a 1 week period, it didn't take a rocket science or an MBA degree to see that inflation was coming. The value of a dollar was going to shrink and your money wasn't going to stretch as far. So like all of the things that's happening now where people got very comfortable being able to list whatever and it would sell when the whole world was closed and there was money raining from the sky. Like that doesn't work anymore. People who took that money and got over leveraged, whether personally or inside of their business, those people have now busted out. So we have two choices with everything. We can either be proactive or we could be reactive. And if you are proactive in building a model, building a plan, getting your ducks in a row to be ahead and stay ahead, it's way better than being reactive, trying to catch up. Being reactive is like trying to push the snowball up versus being proactive is helping it and guiding it and just kind of letting it come downhill at your own pace. And I prefer to be the one that kind of goes at my own pace rather than try to scatter and catch up. Because whenever we try to be reactive, we try to catch up. It's as simple as like on the very, very small level, something that is very reactive is not having a queue for items in our business. If we have no queue, we're much more desperate when we're outsourcing. If you have 50 items at home, you could say no thank you to this one that's on the fringe. But if you have no items at home, every item looks like a great item. But that is a reactionary reaction rather than have the foresight to say, let me have a queue, let me have a draft bank so I don't have to react desperately for everything that comes. And then I could be proactive and have these items at home ready, great items. And I can say no thank you for everything that doesn't fit perfectly inside of my business. And just by always being proactive, I think that's like 99% of the game in reselling and being a business owner.
I spent last year being reactive, and let me tell you, it's a lot more stressful than
I,
just
I
doing more.
agree.
Constantly being on guard, constantly having to plug holes, try to figure out. It's really hard. It was one of the hardest experiences that I went through, just trying to react to everything happening all the time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think just to put it into perspective, there's a lot of people right now that are maybe doing, let's say, 10 a day because that covers the bill and their needs. The problem is within the next 2 to 5 years, the new 10 a day is going to be 15 a day.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right.
Right. And not even 2 to 5 years. It could very well come within the next 2 years. And then before you know it, the new 10 a day is going to be 20 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Absolutely
we're
right.
not already trying to practice, and I come back to what you always say, where if you want to do something, you practice it first, right? So if we're
Mm-hmm.
not already practicing it when we're in our comfort zones and we're not having to be reactive, then when we get into those situations, we have to live on being reactive. And during that time where I had to make decisions to react to things, I wasn't able to make the decisions I wanted to make. I sometimes had to make decisions I had to make.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a lot of the control out of my hands. And I think this is where all these thoughts started coming from, is that why did I let it get to this point when I could have already been ahead and I would have been able to take care of this?
Yeah, I think like when I try to like put it into a vision of like trying to be proactive and trying to have a safety net and try to kind of be in control of my own decisions and I can guide my business how I want versus being reactionary and not in control. Like every single day we get an at bat. We play baseball, we get an at bat, or we play football, we have the ball, we play soccer, we have the ball. If you're winning against another team and you're winning 10-0, you have the option to substitute out all the star players. And in that moment, the other team now has an advantage. They could catch up. But meanwhile, your players are taking a break. The game is already over. You've won the game. That's fine. But like we always have an opportunity to score another goal and to kind of like pump up the score. And I think when things are going good, a lot of people tend to let off the gas rather than looking at it as an opportunity if I get to pump up the scoreboard. So
Yeah.
instead of being 10-0, get it to 20-0. Give yourself some kind of padding or some kind of comfort versus I sold a great item and now we're going out to Red Lobster. Like I've paid the bills,
Yeah.
but I don't need no other money than that. I'm going to Red Lobster. We're going to spend all the money, but I'm still good. Or I know people who have a great week and they take the next 3 weeks off or they have a great day, they take the next 3 days off. But the mentality of like pumping up the scoreboard, like you ever see like those cartoons with like Bugs Bunny and like they're constantly running the base and the scoreboard just goes like this and
Yes.
never stops. Like we need to build our business where like the scoreboard is never stopping. We're just continuously pumping up the scoreboard because things are going to happen. And unless you're so far ahead on the scoreboard, it's easy for the other team to catch up. And the other team is everything eBay, rising cost of goods, decreasing profits, all the things that we talked about, miscellaneous involved with expenses and overhead and challenges and raising fees and changes with the platform that could set us back for a couple of weeks as we adjust. Like, we need this padding, we need this margin inside of our business, inside of our bank account, inside of our schedule, inside of we need margin inside of everything. And like a lot of business owners, not even resellers, a lot of business owners are just flying by the seat of their pants. They have nothing. And then you read these articles where, like, in America, they say like 80% of people can't afford like a $500 emergency, which is extremely unfortunate. But that, how scary is that? But like, when you get $500, it doesn't mean stop. Like, run up the scoreboard and get 500 more. Run up the scoreboard and get 5 more sales. Run up the scoreboard and list 5 more items. Like, there is no cap to what we have to do. The only cap or governor inside of our business is us telling ourselves we don't have to do this, or I'm good, I'm okay, we're good, we're much better, we're this, we're that. You're not. Every single person listening to this is one accident, one tragedy away of resetting back to zero. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how comfortable you are. You are one unfortunate day, time, moment, or second of being reset back to zero. So we need to have some kind of safety margin or padding inside of everything if we want to maintain some sort of comfort, some sort of clear-headedness. Otherwise, you start to make decisions based out of being desperate. And a desperate decision is always going to give you the result that you're not looking for.
I don't think a lot of people realize that if you made the same amount of money in 2024 as you made in 2023, that you actually made less money.
Absolutely, 100%.
Your buying power with $100 in 2023 is different than your buying power with 100 in 2024. And so a lot of people are looking at their businesses, and this is from conversations I've had with people where they say to me, I've been able to keep it stable, everything's good. I know my processes run well. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't even realize that without going backwards, you're going backwards.
Absolutely. And any like straight line, like if you follow mathematics, every single straight line like eventually goes down. It always does. Like eventually it rounds down. And like a business that did $100,000 in sales in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, the person who did $100,000 in sales every single one of those years filed a less profitable tax return in 2024 than they did in 2020. There's no doubt about it.
Which is crazy because we don't I didn't even like look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that stability in a business is good. We're constantly being told that stability is good. We need to be stable. We need to, and you don't really think outside of that, that while you're stable and what you're doing is stable, the world out there isn't.
The world is not stable. So while your profit margins has shrunk, your buying power has shrunk, while the value of your nation's currency has diminished, there's no money left at the end of the day. And the problem is, like, you've done nothing wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. You're still going to work every single day. You're still getting your listings up. You're still selling $100,000 worth of stuff, but you have little to nothing to show for it compared to 4 years previous. And unfortunately, that is the reality, and that will always be the reality forever, continually moving forward. It is a death by 1,000 paper cuts, and every single day that you wake up, there's a new paper cut ready to get $10 from you per day or $3 from you per day. And at the end of the year, all of that little stuff adds up, and you file your taxes and you look at your bottom line, and there's not as much there, even though you did the same exact amount of work, same amount of sales. It just all kind of poofed and went into the air to somebody else. Someone has that money. It ain't us.
Yeah.
But someone's got the money. We don't have it.
But also you realize even if you sit with the same 2,000 you had last year, what you're able to do with that money has drastically decreased. And I noticed this most significantly in my grocery budget. So I buy the food for the house. We have a budget for the house. I cook almost every night. So I buy the food and I buy the snacks. And you can see it in the bills week over week over week, how what I bought last year for the week is now went from costing me 70 pounds a week to 130, 140 even sometimes now a week.
It's crazy.
And
Like, even like the little hand basket that you bring to the store, like I rarely go to the grocery store, and it hit me like a ton of bricks that like I don't have the understanding of like what groceries cost anymore. Like you ever see those game shows where like how much is a bunch of bananas? Like I
Yeah.
haven't been to the grocery store in like 15 years, and you're like, I don't know, I think they're like 60 cents. They're $8.99. Like I was blown away by the prices. And like one little basket like this, my wife was like, guess how much this is gonna be? I'm like, I don't know, maybe like 40 bucks. It was like $110 for like a little basket of stuff that was like 2 days worth of food.
Yeah.
Like it's totally incredible like how fast the money goes. And like, you just kind of think back in time, and like when I started driving, I think gas was like 96 cents a gallon. Like now it's like 4 or 5, $3 everywhere you go. And it's just it's really unfortunate, but like that's the reality. And it's not the reality for us, it's the reality for every single
Yeah.
business across the globe. And our buying power has been diminished, our margins have been diminished. um we're doing everything, but the unfortunate part is, like you're saying, the 10 a day listing today will not be the 10 a day listing tomorrow. That it's going to turn into 20 to 30. Like pretty much, like just to get by, you're going to have to be like an 80 a day lister one day.
Yes. And so
And
maybe
I
this
don't
sounds
know.
a bit harsh, but to stay the same every year and to not increase your business and to stay in your comfort zone means you're in a dead end reselling job.
I think so. But also, like, the good news about it though is like for many, many years, I've listed the same exact item every single day. And by being consistent, listing the same amount of items every single day, technically speaking, you can provide yourself with a pay raise because your store does grow organically.
Yeah.
So let's say you list 30 a day, and let's say you started doing that in 2022. In 30 a day, you're selling 15 a day. You're netting 15. Your store grows, now you're selling 16 a day on average, 17 a day on average, 18 a day on average. And then you go and look at your store 2 years, 2.5 years later, you're still doing the same amount of work, but now your store has grown to 30 sales a day because it's caught up with your listing habits. So like, but also in order to take advantage of that situation, you need to have the discipline and the schedule to be able to list the same amount every single day. Because there were years where I did not increase my listings, but my bottom line net profit went up tremendously because during that year, my store has grown organically and gives me more sales on average per day than it did, 365 days ago. And one of the best things that we've done in the group, and one of the best things that I did for myself, and I'm glad a lot of people do it now, is the year over year graphs. And the year over year graphs can be a tremendous help because reselling is such a beautiful business that compounds every single day, but the compounding is so incremental that it's difficult to grasp and see unless you're tracking it. So in one of these examples that we're talking about, like if you list 10 a day, if you did that every single day and your store grew year over year, you could be a 10 a day lister in year one, be a 10 a day lister in year two, and you will sell more items, you will make more money. But there is a cap on that because once your store catches up to what your 10 a day listing is, you're going to sell 10 a day and you're never going to get past that.
Yeah.
So in those instances, you absolutely have to increase your business, raise your listing goal, find better items, sell items more quicker in order to kind of stay ahead of the world and stay ahead of everything that's going on. But I think that reselling, like based on that, incremental compounding on a daily basis, it's pretty unique because like I have a couple other businesses, but none of them offer that kind of benefit because like my brick and mortar store, there's no compounding like that. The lawn company, there's no compounding. Like you don't just service the same houses on the same route and then you get like bonus houses for doing something. You don't get that. But like with reselling, you do get that kind of like bonus incremental appreciation across your business just by going to work, showing up, and doing the same thing every single day.
And I think that's where kind of my business has hit the point now where
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that stabilized point now, where the only way for me to get more is now to do more.
Sure.
And so if people hearing this too have realized now also, okay, I need to do more, not only because my store needs more, but inflation and economy, and I want to do more. There's sometimes a lot of pushbacks or pitfalls we can fall into as well. And one of the biggest ones I hear when I speak to people about upping the listings or growing the business is they'd have to change their metric to do more.
That's a mistake. So there's two ways that you can list more items. Way number one is go to the same places at the same time, have the same routine, but instead of buying all the best items that you can find, let's call them the gold medal items, now you buy the silver medal items, and then you buy the bronze medal items, then you buy the cardboard and the paper clip and the toothpick items. You can do that. So you can scale this way, and scaling this way is a downturn in profitability and a downturn in sell through. So now you start accepting these items that are less than and take longer than to sell. It's a very, very dangerous situation to place yourself in. Or you can expand this way, which means go to more stores, go sourcing more days per week, wake up a little bit earlier, stay a little bit more often, learn more, continue to be extremely selective, but just give yourself more opportunities on a kind of square mile approach rather than give yourself the same opportunities and just accept the lesser than items that are being presented to you. So if you find yourself in a thrift store, if you find yourself purchasing inventory, if you find yourself at a flea market and you have to knock it down in terms of profitability and sell through, you get in the car and you go somewhere else. And you only continue to pick those 100% bona fide gold medal items. So like if you're a shoe seller and you buy Hokas and On Clouds and you've exhausted all the Hokas and On Clouds in this store, you don't start buying Reebok. You don't start buying Walmart shoes. You get in the car and you go to another place that's going to have more Hokas, more On Clouds. If you are a clothing seller and you're looking for Roback, which has a great sell through, and all the Roback is gone, you don't start buying George just because it's convenient, just because it's presented to you. You get in the car and you go to another thrift store. And if that thrift store don't have them, you get in the car and you go to another one. You get in the car and you go to a flea market. You wake up 30 minutes earlier and go to the flea market earlier. So there's the two ways to scale are accept less than, accept longer than, or accept I have to source more, but I can continue to pick up only the best items. It's just going to take me one more store, one more day, waking up earlier on Saturday than I want to, going to a place that's maybe less convenient, maybe more out of the way, rather than the one that's right by our neighborhood that, you know, can supply me 3 items a day, but now I need 6. Guess what? Now you got to go to more places than just that. So I think a lot of people do fall into that trap of limiting themselves to, and it's a self-limitation of, I can only source in these stores. I can only source in this geometric area. And like I say it sometimes as a joke, but like if I said, Hanley, disregard where the best items were, only go to the closest, most convenient place and don't go anywhere else. That would be foolish to say, but people are voluntarily doing that. Disregard where the best items are. Don't go there. Only go to the closest, most convenient place for you and only source there and only accept the best items that they have for you.
And that's interesting because you spoke about the self-limitation of it. And one of the thoughts that I had on it was a lot about reselling in our business is just you versus you.
100%.
More than it is you versus the competitors or you versus the people who source or you. So much of our business is you versus you. And you had a great example of it's whether you want to go to what's convenient or what's easy or if you want to go the hard way.
Right?
Absolutely. And that's in so many other choices in our business. It's you choose to sell lower metrics items because they may be easier to store, easier to pack because you don't want to do this other part, which is harder.
Or you choose not to do your listings today, or you choose to do 3 instead of 10. Like all of these choices are like our choices. And I think like in a broad scope and a narrow scope, so many people, whether it just be human beings, business owners, or resellers, we get stuck in these self-limited beliefs that like a lot of stuff is not possible. And like for me personally, I am not as confident as you guys think I am. Like you guys see this person. I do truly believe that I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. And if I want to build this kind of business, if I want to list these kind of items, if I want to have this kind of thing, I know I can do it. But when we convince ourselves and when we say like it cannot be done, you've already lost. The game is already over. You're right. Log off and be done. Like if you've convinced yourself it cannot be done, You're 100% correct. So like there's always a way to do something, and every single business model works. You just got to figure out how to make it work. Like you have an unconventional reseller business model. You have found a way to make it work. And like that's what we have to do. You could have thrown your hands up and say, you know what, in Scotland, I don't have car boot sales, flea markets, I don't have thrift stores, I don't have this, I don't have that. You're absolutely right. And you could go get a job somewhere else. And that's ultimately what it's about. Or we could say, like, I can do this, like I can figure this out. Like if there is a will, there is a way. And like I don't care where you live, where you stay, what you
Yeah.
do, like doesn't matter. We can always figure out a way to overcome. But like the second that we submit to that thought of like, I can't do this because, or this reason why, or like, you've already lost the race, it's over, it's finished. So like we have to believe in ourselves. And I think like, a lot of people don't think like things can be done unless they see somebody else do it. But
Yeah.
like we need to have like more people, more leaders that kind of like break down all of these kind of invisible barriers or walls and kind of prove like things can be done. Like once upon a time, they felt like the 4 minute mile was impossible. Some guy did it, and now like everyone does it. Like middle school kids are like
Yeah.
running 4 minute miles, but like once upon a time, they thought it was impossible. So like if there's not someone in your area, your region, your city, your zip code, like not doing it, like my mom used to always tell me, like when I used to tell her or talk to her, she would always say, why not you? She would always tell me that, why not you? Like I would say something so outlandishly off the wall, and my mom would say, well, why not you? Like, why can't you do this? Like there's no reason why you cannot. So like if you think something is achievable, like why not you? Like
Yeah.
there was do you know how many people told me how crazy I was to do all of the things that I've done over the last 15 years on eBay? And now those same people are like celebrating the success. But 10 years ago, they were telling me how crazy I was. But like once you do it, once you achieve it, once you provide, once you build a beautiful business, like it all makes sense after that. But like until you do it, until somebody has done it, you will always have people telling you it can't be done and don't do it and do something else or try a different way. And that always. And like a lot of the conversations that we have everywhere, like I'll say stuff and people will tell me why it can't be done. Or
Yeah.
people will ask me the craziest questions. I never tell anybody it can't be done. I will figure out a way how your crazy question and crazy situation can work. And it's up to you to go do it. Like everything works. You just got to figure out how to make it work.
And this is something that I got from our conversations and also from Sam. Is Sam's very much also the type of person who's like, is this a me? Is this a me against me issue, or is this a genuine issue? And when
Mm-hmm.
you face a problem, looking at it and going, is this a me against me? So is it because I don't want to do it, or I think it's going to be hard, or I don't want to go the extra mile, or I don't think I can achieve this, or is this an actual issue?
Sure. I I get fired up when something is hard and when I don't believe other people can do it. Like when I was cutting grass and when I was going to the flea market at 4 a.m. and doing 120 sets of photos and 120 listings, I would think about almost on a daily basis, like nobody else in the world did this today. Like nobody. And for me, that gave me like immense satisfaction that I was the only human being
Yeah.
out of 8 billion people that went and cut 30 yards today, went to the flea market, did 120 listings and sold 120 items. Like literally nobody in the world did that, but like you were able to accomplish that. And I'm sure like for you, like you've probably been told you can't do stuff a million times in your life. And like you've built this great business in a strange foreign land from not where you're from, and you've been able to achieve all of these things, and like it has to kind of, it's got to feel good, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
so like how do people kind of like cross that bridge to be like, this can be done, and like feeling good about it being done? Because I think like people always look at it from the opposite perspective of like challenges are challenging, but like they can be overcome, and like when you do them, like it's a wonderful feeling of accomplishment.
Do you think it comes down to, and this is actually something that Arwen said when he was speaking about the time he spent with you. He said people were asking him questions about your sourcing routes and everything, and I don't remember the exact context of the conversation, but it stuck with me. He said it's supposed to be hard.
Yes.
It's supposed to be hard. I think so many people have this vision in their heads of I'm going to work for myself, I'm going to get done by. I remember there was a time where being done by 9 a.m. was a trend. Like
Sure.
you'll wake up at 5, you'll be done at 9, you'll have the rest of the day to yourself, you're living your
Right.
best life.
Right.
And I think a lot of us can get caught up in that. I think as a culture, we're also being told that we deserve to be comfortable, we deserve this, we deserve, do you know what I mean? And then Arwen coming on and just like going like, no, they're supposed to be hard. Like doing great things, building businesses, being
Yes.
successful, it's supposed to
Supposed to
be
be hard.
hard.
Supposed to be. Do you think that life is supposed to be hard? I do.
Yes,
I
yes,
do. I think life is supposed to be difficult.
yes,
And like when you accept that like life is supposed to be like this, it makes everything else so much more easier. So like when
yes,
people ask like, how do you do this? Like there's no other option. Like you have to do this. Like this is life. And like
yeah,
sometimes that's just my answer is like, why do you do all of the things that you do? And the answer is like, it's just life.
yeah,
Like life is supposed to be this way for me. And I don't know, maybe other people live a life where it is easier, they think it's easier, or they are done by 9 a.m. I don't know that reality. Like no one that I've ever been exposed to has had that reality. So like I'm not sure of what that is. But like I think, like Arwen said, I think business is supposed to be
yeah,
difficult. I think that like get rich quick is not true. Overnight success is not true. Like LeBron was shooting jump shots for 18 years before anyone even knew
yeah,
who his name was. And then suddenly he graduated high school and he's an overnight success. How many nights was he at the gym till 2 o'clock in the morning shooting hoops as an 11-year-old to become the best player in the entire world by the time he was 18? But like no one was there. No one talked about that. No one else was shooting in the gym with him. It was him. It was 1v1 every single day. He was in there doing what he loved because he wanted to get better. And then suddenly it happened this quickly. But like that's not how it happens. Like this stuff doesn't happen quickly. There is no get rich quick as far as reselling goes. There is no overnight success as far as reselling goes. This is a business, and I don't think people understand this part. This is a business where most people's best case scenario are items that they're picking up and they're supposed to sell in 90 days. So what that means is the work that you do today does not start to pay off until 90 days from now. So like if you want quick money, fast money, you need money today, eBay's not the answer. You better go get a gig job, you better go get a part-time job, but like the work that you're doing today on eBay, if you have a 90-day sell through, will not pay off 90 days from now. If you have a 6 month sell through, it doesn't pay off 6 months from now. If you have a 1 year sell through, it's not going to pay off until next year. That is the nature of the beast. And unless you have immense patience,
yeah.
the discipline to let everything work out and let eBay take care of it, you're going to give up before you start to see kind of like the payoffs and the benefits and all the fruits of all the labor that you've done 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Those don't show themselves tomorrow. Those don't show themselves next week. Like it takes time in order for your eBay business to pay you back for what you've done months ago.
It reminds me of I think it was Usain Bolt. I was trying to find about account now. There was a time when everyone was calculating and saying like he makes X millions per second that he
Right.
runs.
Right.
And he came out and he said it's funny that everyone talks about that, but no
Yeah.
one talks about the fact that I trained for 19 years to run 2 seconds.
That's right. Yeah.
It took me that many years
That's
of
right.
training to be able to run those 2 seconds, and yet everyone wants to talk about how much I earned for those two
Per
seconds.
second. Yeah. But no
Yeah,
one sees 7 days a week. No one
no,
sees since he was 4 years old being on a track, coached and throwing up on the field, crying and
yeah.
losing and suffering. But they saw him run 9 seconds and get paid $100 million. But all that other stuff, no one was there. It was done in the dark and flatly nobody cared about it. And how lucky is he, right? How
Yeah.
lucky is he that he's a physical specimen that worked his ass off for 365 days for 9 seconds in the spotlight?
But
And
I've also seen now people who throughout my life, they're older than me, and throughout my life I've seen them take the comfortable choices, I've seen them do the easy thing, and now their lives are really hard. And
yeah.
it is really hard. That the way the economy in the world is going, it's really hard for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so my mentality over it is, why not do the hard part while I'm capable?
That's right. That's
Like
that's what my
I'd
wife and I did.
rather I'd rather have it suck right now in my 30s when I'm somewhat still young and able and capable, than have it suck in my 80s when there's nothing I can do about it. Do you know what I mean?
I'm with you. And that's why my wife and I worked so hard for 15 years, is because we had the idea to take the 50-year vacation. The 50-year vacation means you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You can save your money, you can invest it wisely, you can put it to work, and that money will grow incrementally. It's not a quick growth overnight, but hopefully we put ourselves in a position where we end up fortunate enough to, have everything that we need fully taken care of from here on out. Because in the United States, we have something called Social Security, where after you reach a certain age, you do get kind of like a monthly payout. It's not much, but like by the time I reach Social Security will be bankrupt. There'll be nothing there.
Mhm.
So like I've been paying into it my whole life, and it's gonna be gone. So
Yeah.
like everyone of like my generation and younger, like this is gone. And like in America, I know in the UK, you guys have like a lot of pensions, which is great. But like if you work at McDonald's in America, there's no pension. Like the only people that get pensions in America are C-suite employees, CEO, CFO, or government employees. There are no pensions anywhere else for anything else. Zero. They're not there.
That's
Gone.
crazy. In the UK, it's a law. If
Yeah.
you
No.
employ people, you have to give them pension contributions.
No. Unless you are a government employee or like very, very high up in a company,
Yeah.
most people do not have a pension in the United States of America, meaning you are responsible for your own life after you leave here.
But
And you
then what
better
happens
save
when you
enough
can't
money.
work anymore?
You're screwed. That's the United States of America. You're screwed. There are so many people in the United States of America that are old, and it's unfortunate, and they don't have enough money. And they have to choose between buying medicine and buying food. That is the unfortunate reality for a lot of people in the United States of America.
That's the same in South Africa. There's
Yeah.
just nothing, and it's like again, people are living their best lives while they work, and we're not caring or putting enough time into like I don't want to go into a retirement chat, but the whole point of the conversation was there's a lot of I get a lot of pushback from people
Yeah.
about work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of pushback from other moms
Sure.
because I have three kids and I also do the business and stuff. And it's very much about live in the moment, work-life balance. And I'm trying to do what's best for my kids, not in the moment, but in the long run. And
Sure.
our oldest daughter wants to become a motorsport engineer. It's something she's always
Nice.
wanted to do. She's doing really well in school. She's taking all her hires, like she's putting in the work. I don't
Nice.
want her to put in all this work and then come to me and say, "Look, I got in, I made it," and I have to go, "Well, sorry about that," you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, why not? Why would I not want to excel as much as I can when I'm able to be able to do those things and to be able to provide for myself? Like, I don't want
Sure.
to be in that situation where I'm 70, 80 years old and now I struggle. Why would you want to struggle then if you can struggle now?
You're speaking my language, but like it gets a lot of pushback. It gets a lot of kickback from
Yeah,
family, from friends, from
yeah,
everybody. Like not a lot of people understand that mentality. And like for me, like I worked very, very hard. I would never recommend anybody to do the things that I did. But if I got hit by a bus today, for me, it's mission accomplished. Like my
yeah,
wife and my son are set forever. And
yeah,
like for me as a human being, like a provider and like a father and a dad and a spouse, like
yeah,
that is my job up and above everything else. And
yeah,
like if I got hit by a bus or something unfortunate happened and I don't live to see, any other day inside of my life, I know when I get put into the ground and they catch me on fire that like everybody is taken care of. And to me,
yeah,
that's the entire reason why we're all here, to make our kids and our future offspring and our future generations, to make their life a little bit more easier. Like my son doesn't have to go through and will never go through the things that
yeah.
I had to go through to make me this person that all of you guys see. My son is a very different person. He
Hmm.
didn't have to go through all of this stuff, and that's part of the mission accomplished. All
Yeah,
the long days, all the nights, all the days off, he doesn't have to do that. That's the mission accomplished. Now, does he have to work for every single thing he is going to get? Absolutely. And if he ends up not being a good person, I will build a soccer stadium with all of my money when it's game over. So like there is no guarantees here. There is no
Yep.
handouts. Like I'm fortunate he's not, but like
Yep.
if I do get hit by a bus, we don't have to worry. And to me, that gives me a lot of comfort. And to me, that makes it all worth it. And to me, nobody else needs to understand that. And a lot of people who wanted to take the weekends off, who wanted to go out, who wanted to party, who wanted to have fun, like all of that is great, excellent, no problem. I personally, I feel like my mission is larger than that. And I can miss maybe going out and doing that at that time today, because now I get the freedom, the option, and opportunity to do that whenever I want now. And sometimes like that delayed gratification or that kind of continuously moving the
Yep.
goalposts back, it works for me. Like I don't need any kind of, benefit of all the fruits of this labor today. I don't need it. Like I have no furniture in my house. I have 3 shirts. Like none of this is for me. And that is part of what makes driving and running a business so much easier, because none of this is for me. Like if I was doing stuff for me and me alone, selfishly for me, I would be eating Doritos and playing Xbox if I wanted to do stuff for me, because that's probably way more fun than doing all of this stuff.
Yep.
But like I'm not doing it for me. And
Yep.
if I did that, that's a disservice to everybody around me. And unfortunately, it takes, a lot of time, a lot of tenacity, a lot of commitment, a lot of, relentlessly always having the same result every single day. But like, I think like that's why we're put on this earth. Like
Yeah.
my grandpa worked every single day of his life. And when his doctor like forced him to stop working, he died 2 weeks later.
Yep.
Like if he was still working, he'd probably
Yeah.
be still alive. So like for me, I always have to be doing something. I always, my feet hit the ground, I gotta be productive. Like if I'm not productive, I may as well just clock out. Like
Yep.
we are here to be productive, and you can be productive in a negative way, in a positive way. And I think that operating your own business is a very positive way to be productive, because you
Yeah.
can, earn your income, you can pay your bills on your own terms, you can, maybe build your business where it can start providing for others, hire employees,
Mhm.
you can, order orders from other people and help them grow their business. Like it's all kind of this circular sustainable thing that like I think at like the very core essence is like what makes the world go around. And like
Yep.
every single time that we choose not to do this, like we're doing a disservice to like ourselves and like humanity at whole. Like I really, really believe that like being productive makes the world a better place. And I think like
Yep.
if we ever get to the point where like all the computer chat GPT overlords take over everything, like people say like they don't want to work, you will see people lined up volunteer to work
Yep.
when the computer overloads take over everything, because we can't sit idle. Like an idle mind, idle body is dangerous for a lot of people.
The happiest people I know have a higher purpose.
Yeah, I think so. And my higher purpose is being productive every single day of this.
Yeah.
Every single second, that's my purpose. And I enjoy that.
I think there's also a misconception of you have to choose. So it
You
has to
don't.
be full send hard work or work-life balance. And I think to me, what I've realized is work-life balance means prioritizing the things that are important to me and choosing to only spend my time on
That's
that
right.
thing.
That's
So
right.
what's important to is my business, my kids, all their activities,
Mm-hmm.
and also some selected family social events that I still want to attend because that's
Sure.
important to me.
Sure.
Weddings, birthdays, whatever the case is. People seem to think it's either or, when all it really is an analysis of your life, choosing what the important parts are, and then saying to yourself, that's what I'm going to spend my time on. I'm not going to
100%.
spend my time on the things that aren't important. Like for me, it was Instagram. And so
Sure.
now I don't have it. Well, I have Instagram, but I only have 15 minutes a day on it, and then it shuts down, which is just enough time to answer messages, and that's it.
Sure.
Because that realized spending too much time on it, and that's not a priority. So
Not a
you don't
priority.
have to have zero work-life balance. You just put your life into your priorities.
That's it. You could be full send in work and life. You could be full send
Yes.
in that. Like I have never missed a single thing or obligation for my son. Never. Arwen tried to catch me slipping and got my son one on one when they went to Walmart, and he said my son looked him dead in the eyes and said he's never missed anything. So like you can do both. And like
Yes.
maybe to you, like watching the Arsenal game is not a priority. You could skip, catch it on Yahoo News and catch the score. Okay, 2-1, got it. I don't need to sit here for 4 hours. Maybe, watching LeBron shoot a jump shot. Like you could watch ESPN and catch it in 2 minutes. You don't got to spend 3.5 hours and do it. So like you have to figure out what your priorities are and focus on that and that only. Every single thing outside of like what your priority is a distraction and to some form is like sucking the life out of you or like sucking the productivity out of you if it is not kind of like your core principal foundation priorities, what's important to you. And I think that, if you do have like an honest conversation, honest evaluation about like what are your priorities, and if you can, figure out what those are and focus on that, you don't even have time for anything else. You don't, because all you want to do is your priorities and nothing else. Anything else outside of that becomes a distraction and a deterrent from what actually really matters.
And so I had a phrase last year. I can't remember when it was, but it completely changed my view of everything. And the phrase goes, give them bread in a circus and they'll never revolt.
Sure.
Right? Basically, keep them fed and keep them entertained, and you could do whatever you want. And it makes you realize like how much of the things you're spending your time on is just you being kept entertained. And
Entertained.
once you shut that out, or you go into your own life and you view your own life and you say, my business is important, my kids are important, my family is important. Those are the three things I'm going to fill my time with. You
Mm-hmm.
actually realize how much time you have.
It's so much time. 24 hours is so much
Very
time.
much.
And you only sleep for what, 6 or 8 of those hours? Like
Yeah.
there's so much time to be productive and do all of your stuff. But like the biggest disservice that a lot of resellers do is they make a 3 hour reseller day a 13-hour
Yep.
reseller day. And they are the ones who will tell you you don't have work-life balance.
Yes.
The ones that turn a 3 hour day into a 13-hour day will tell you you're not the one who has work-life
Yeah.
balance when they should be done in 3 hours.
And so we know now that we can't stay where we are because the economy
Mm-hmm.
is changing, inflation's coming. We
Mm-hmm.
know that growing doesn't mean we have to sacrifice standards because then actually what you're doing is you're going backwards,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
us against ourselves. We have to get out of the way. We have to get the better products,
Yes.
um, which is a lot easier said than done. I myself stand in my own way and I have to correct myself a lot of the time. We also want to make sure we're growing before we're being forced to grow, because in those situations, we don't have the opportunities to make the right decisions,
So hold
right?
on, hold on, hold on. It's not easier said than done.
It
If you
is.
get garbage items, that's much more difficult. Because how much time do you spend working and reworking and reworking and rehashing and going back and
Uh,
fixing and promoting and delisting, relisting and doing all of these hokey pokey things, where if you just spent the effort and only got the good ones, you can eliminate that whole entire arm of the business.
yeah, but the problem is human nature wants easy.
It's
And what we
easier
don't
to get good
realize,
items. It's
no, I
easier
know,
to get good items.
but what we don't realize is that choosing the easy way to source actually gives us more work in the back end, and that it
Yes.
is actually just easier to source the better
It's
items.
easier to source the better items and eliminate that entire arm of your business of the hokey pokey and all the magic needed.
Yeah, but we don't have time tech because we've got
We
work-life balance
do.
and we need to
We
watch
do.
LeBron shoot whatever you said that's called.
We
I don't,
do. We have time for that because, like, when people say, like, hey, do you like delist, relist, and go back and rework and do all of this stuff, like retake pictures and rework this keywords or reevaluate your price and all of this? And I say, no, never. I've never done that. Never. Have I had items that took too long to sell? Yes, but they're still desirable. So I do an aged inventory markdown. I let the price take care of it. Never do I have to put lipstick on a pig to make my item sell. And the amount of time that people spend dressing up their lipstick on a pig item, it's way less time to just go out and find items that don't need lipstick. Like it seems counterintuitive, but I promise you, it's way less time and effort just to go out and find items that don't need all of that other extracurricular stuff.
but then they're going to tell you that, well, then I can't increase my listings because I can't find that many good items.
You can. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe excuses. I don't. You can do anything. That's a self limiting belief.
Exactly. But where it comes back to, it's us against us most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be able to correct yourself.
Imagine being 0 and 10 in the us versus us competition. Imagine losing every single day versus yourself. That's not a good place to be.
No, that's not a good look either. Um, okay, that was my first thought,
Okay,
which we kind of ran with the whole thing, but I love it.
great.
Um, I I now know I have to grow the business. We're working on ways to do that and expand. We obviously have big dreams, still the same dreams. We just were a little caught off track and we got a little delayed. One of the other obstacles I face in my business, if we're going to take it down a bit of a different route, is how to steady the unknown, right? And by that I mean I can steady my listing process, I can steady my packing process, I can steady my warehouse. How did you in your business find ways to, and maybe steady is the wrong word, I might have the wrong word here, to like consistency is maybe a better word. How do you bring consistency into the parts of your business that don't have consistency, like sourcing? Because for me, my biggest obstacle I'm facing is that when I want to increase my listings, I need to find sources that can give me more product. And because I'm not able to drive to a bins or a,
Sure.
go physically pick more items, I'm
Mhm.
struggling to be at the mercy of what other people can supply.
I think that I think there's a couple ways to do it. For me personally, every single time that I started to list more, it was something that was on my mind, but it was never something that it was date based. I'm going to increase this. I'm going to increase on this date. I'm going to increase then. It was always because I unlocked some sort of other stream of inventory where then I became comfortable that I can increase now. So if I was in your position and you're listing X amount per day, the next kind of steady windfall of product that you get from a supplier or source, that would be the time when I start thinking about increasing. So it's never I look on the calendar and go, okay, September
Yeah.
19th, I'm going up 10. It was always, I know I have unlocked consistent, steady, repeatable inventory to hit 30 a day. Whenever I get this next achievement unlocked where I feel really good about it and this person seems rock solid and I think this is going to be long-term business with a long-term person, even if it's not forever, it's still long-term, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like we can see that this person is running a serious operation. They're going to have access. They're in deal flow. They're always moving and popping on something. That is a time where I say, okay, I've already mastered kind of like this 30 a day kind of kingdom. Now I've achieved like this new secret land on this side, and I'm going to add that here. And while we do have this new secret land, we don't stop. We try to keep unlocking all of these achievements
Yeah.
because when this person falls off, we got this person to come in right here. Where this person who used to be steady for 18 months is gone, now we've replaced him with a little bit of this and a little bit of this. So I think a lot of people think that there's some kind of holy grail one person that's going
Yeah.
to answer everything for them. But the business that relies on one person, one supplier, one store, one honey hole, one flea market is a business that is seriously in jeopardy because you are not the master of your own domain. You are going by the terms dictated of somebody else, whether it be the flea market, if they close, you're out of business. Whether it be the thrift store, if they change their pricing structure, you're out of business. Whether it be the honey hole, if someone else finds it, you're out of business. Whether it be a supplier and someone else pays a nickel more, you're out of business. So we need to have this web of people in a way where people want to depend on suppliers or suppliers have to depend on us. And we have to have this web, this network of suppliers that are depending on us. And every single time we add kind of a new one to the web, that's always been an opportunity that I've taken to increase the listings. And I think that that is not like a manufactured increase, that is an
Yes.
organic increase because it happens when it's supposed to happen. And
Okay.
there were times where I had to turn down relationships because I and my business was not ready. And that's okay. Things will happen, things will fall into place at the right time when you're ready for them. And it takes work. You know it. You got to call people, you got to canvas, you got to walk indoors, you got to talk to people, you got to, shake hands, you got to be out on the car boot sale, the flea market, you got to keep showing up, get noticed, be known as someone that can facilitate a lot of
Yeah.
products. And I think that's the biggest key. Not someone that can just buy. And if I know someone that all they could do is buy and they're not listing, I'm going to be apprehensive. I'm going to be careful with them. I'll sell them as much as they want, but I know that is a very, very short relationship
Yeah.
because unless they're selling items, they can't come back with new
Yeah.
money. So I want to sell stuff to people that are going to process it, facilitate, list it, and sell it. That way they come back to me with new money next week. And if you could always be new money next week because you running a business that has good cash flow, that is something that people look for and want to do business with. So in terms of like growing, I've never sat down and set a date and said I'm growing now. I've always grown when I come across like a new supplier or a deal of a lifetime or a deal of a lifetime and start adding more on the route. And that way I'm not depending on this deal. Now I have more on the route. My knowledge has increased. Every single thing increases on its own. And then things fall into place. And that's always when I've grown. So when a lot of people know me, like you know me after I went from 120 to 250. But the only reason why I went from 120 to 250 is because something fell into place. The warehouse next door became available. I knew where the product was. I just wasn't set up to do 250.
Yeah.
Once I was set up to do 250, that fell into place. That was the domino that determined me increasing my listings. It wasn't a date on a calendar or a feeling or anything. It was a domino has to fall into position in order to organically and safely grow, in my opinion.
That's interesting because every time I've tried to increase, it was a me-driven decision. Like I'm going to increase my listings now, so I have to go find the extra stock instead of letting the supply kind of have a say in that and
Yes.
doing it that way around. And I think that's why maybe I found it so stressful all the time is I was trying to force something that wasn't there yet sometimes. I
Right.
think so. Sorry.
But that takes patience though, and people have to
Yeah.
be really, really patient. You have to be okay with listing 30, selling 30, and taking wheelbarrows full of cash to the bank because
Yeah.
that's your best opportunity right now. Sometimes your best opportunity and option is listing 30, selling 30, and putting your money into the bank. So that
Yeah.
way, when something does make itself known to you,
Yeah.
you have the ammunition in the bank, you have the liquid cash to go out and deploy it because how many times are we doing this kind of non-organic growth where we are self-funding, we don't have a lot of money in the bank and we have to do the walk of shame away from the deal of a century or don't have the option or opportunity to take advantage of a situation once the situation presents
Yeah.
itself to us. And for me, I always want to have cash on the sidelines to take advantage of an opportunity, and taking advantage of an opportunity is that supplier, but you have to be ready for them because if you're not ready when they're ready, you're not a serious contender for their business. But I could have funneled all of my money back into the business, just growing for the sake of growing. And I would not have the money or the capability to be a serious contender for their business. So I have no problem being patient. I have no problem taking wheelbarrows of cash to the bank. And I have no problem being patient and letting things happen when they're supposed to happen. I want to work on what's inside of my control.
Yeah.
Everything else will take care of itself. So what's inside of my control is doing my work every single day, getting the best items that I can get, filling up my bank account for the time that presents itself and available where I can now deploy the capital that I do have because that's a tool for our business as well. This is a tool, our capital is a tool, everything that we have is a tool for our business, and we can't reach into our toolbox when a great deal comes along or a great supplier comes along and we don't have the right tool for it.
That's so interesting. I never thought of it as like forced growth
It
and
is.
like what the implications of that would be, especially with missing opportunities then coming up because you're so focused on trying to make this growth work when that's
Absolutely.
just not maybe the right thing Or
Like the people who say like, oh, I'm gonna grow like one listing per month for the next year, even though it seems like that's like pretty slow growth, that is faster than I've ever grown. I always sat for years and years and years. I never did it increase every month, an increase every year. Never. I sat until an opportunity presented himself that was worthwhile of me taking this leap and deploying my capital. Always, every single time.
Okay, so this is good because I wanted to talk about opportunity as well, if we've still got some time.
Hit us.
Um, so we know a lot of times it's been said that when you went outsourcing or like to the flea markets or stuff, you don't go looking for products, you go look for people, right?
Yes.
You're always trying to
Yes.
find the people. Okay. Then the
Mm-hmm.
other day in our 100K call in the group, and you said his name was Tom, and I'm hoping I got his name right. But he said, in response to someone thinking of new ways to source, he said, you've got to farm the area and it'll take 6 to 9 months to pay off. And it clicked in my head that what you are doing is you aren't sourcing, you're farming the area.
Farming the area. That's
Because
it.
then Arwen will tell us how you would go back to an area after years and people still know you
That's
because
right.
you were planting seeds all this time.
That's right.
And when you plant the seed, there isn't necessarily anything to harvest the same day. That's
That's
not
right.
how seeds work. That's not how farming works. And
No.
so, how many of us are actively farming even just the areas we live in?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we want instant results. We want to go to that charity shop and instantly pick up what we need for today. We want to go to the flea market and get what we need for that week. We aren't spending time, again, delay gratification, into the things that will provide the opportunities that you ended up with. And then we all want to ask, well, how come that isn't happening to us?
It's a very, very valid point, and it's a very good observation. And you know, I go to flea markets just like anybody else, but the unfair advantage that I have is I have been cultivating these relationships and I have been farming these flea markets by investing in the people and investing in the market itself. So like everyone knows I don't negotiate. And Arwen asked me when he was here, he's like, how come like you didn't tell him 20 instead of 25? And I said, Arwen, do you have like a pizza place on the corner that's run by like Ken and his wife Mary? He's like, yeah, I have that. I said, do you ever go order pizza on a Friday night and negotiate on the pizza? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, it's a family business. I said, each and every person out here is also a family business. Every single one of these people are a small family business. So I don't want to beat them up on the price. I'm not going to beat up Mary on the pizza price. It's a small
Yeah.
family business. So I'm not going to beat these people up on their small family business. And what happens when you give them an extra $5, give them an extra $10 per week, give them an extra $20 per week, because we are immensely profitable on the items that we're picking up. We're turning 5 into 50. You can afford 7. You can afford 10 into 50. What do? They are small business owners. They are smart. Just because they're vending at a flea market does not mean that they are not smart. They are smart. You pay them money, and what are they going to do? They're going to reinvest back into their business. And you start to see Joe had one table, now he's got
Yeah.
two. Joe had one rail, now he's got two. Joe started off bringing me one item, now he brings me 1,000 per week because I
Yeah.
invest in the people so they can reinvest back into their business. Because when they make money, I make money. When
Yeah.
I make money, they make money. I'm sure to spread all the money around in my tech and sports ecosystem to make sure that I take care of everybody. Because if I take care of everybody, everybody will take care of me. And that's why I get first shot. And people can watch on my videos. I started going to flea markets I'd never been before. I did this on purpose because if I went to my El Presidente flea market, Arwen came with me. I couldn't even walk. I didn't go there for 6 years, and people remembered me and were shaking my hand and chasing me down because of how good of care I took of people. And if you think about it, that flea market has gone downhill. It's gone downhill because people are not investing in the people. And
Yeah.
if you don't want your flea market vendors to make a profit and make money, they will go out of business. And when they go out of business and you go to the flea market and they're no longer there, how do you make money? And when the flea market vendors aren't there and the flea market folds because no one is there to sell items because flea market vendors can't make money, then where do you go to make money? So everybody has to make money in this ecosystem, in this economy. in order for it to work, not just you. If you're the only one making money, that's short-sighted. You're not going to be making money forever. So I like to invest in all of these people, all of these people's families, all of these people's businesses, because as I spend more money with them, they're smart. They're not just going to take days off. They see this is a great opportunity. Let me double time on my sourcing. Let me figure out what you like to buy. Let me reinvest this 50 that you gave me into 10 items. I buy 10, let me reinvest this 100 back into 200 items, so on and so forth. And I want them to make money. There's items that I pass up on that sometimes they offer me at a cheaper price, and I tell them, no, you keep this, you sell it for full price, because I know they could get 10 for it. I don't need it for 3. And with that $10, they can go out and buy 10 more items that I can get next week. I don't need 1 item. I need the 10 items that you can bring me next week, because you found a great item and you can sell it for full price. And if you want to be the only one making money, pretty soon there's going to be no money to go around. So it is very, very important to take care of the people that take care of you. So when I go to the flea market, I almost, stimulate the economy. I try to spend money with as many people as I can. I try to spend all the money that I can spend with as many people as I can spend it with. And there's things that even since Arwen came, even shoe sellers, a lady I started getting 1 pair of Hokas. She bought 3. Last week, she brought 20 pairs. Next week, she's going to bring 50 pairs. And it's all because I'm paying her a livable wage for the items that she's buying. And am I paying $20 for a pair of Hokas? Yes. Do I want them for $1? Absolutely, I do. But if I'm buying Hokas for $1, this lady cannot afford to continue to run her business. So I have to suck it up and pay $20. But that's okay. She brought me 20 pairs this weekend that will sell for 60, 70, 80, 100. I'll make my money. She will make her money. And we can meet again next time, and that lady will be bringing me 40 or 50 pairs at a time. You have to invest in the people that are invested in you and invested in your business.
But everything you said, it just comes back to the farming. You plant the seeds, telling them who you are, you grow the crop, you nourish them, you feed them, you keep them great, and then you reap the rewards at the end.
That's right. And if people pay attention to my videos, my first video, I was planting the seeds. Now I'm starting to reap the benefits. And the reason why I still go to the flea market, I don't need these items for eBay. This is what I'm doing. I'm telling everybody everything. I am building people up to 1,000 pieces per week, because every single time I build someone to 1,000 pieces per week, that's 1 extra pallet per week I can send out. So I need to build these people up from 1 item to 100 items to 1,000 items. And that's what I'm doing. I'm planting the seeds, I'm cultivating the crop, and building up the people to get to 1,000 pieces per week. And once they get to 1,000 pieces per week, that is 1 more dependable pallet for my wholesale business. That's what I'm doing flat out.
And we've been, since that dawned on me a couple of weeks ago about the farming and like how that relates to what you're doing. And because I'm going to be honest, a lot of the times I kind of dismiss your sourcing in your videos because I don't sell clothes.
It's all the same though. It all translates.
And now I know, now I get it, and it clicks in me. And so we're heavily farming. Like we're out there with on a bigger scale than we ever have before. And multiple times now we come into places and they're like, you're a week late. I literally just sent all that stuff to the dump. They didn't even know there's a business of like there is a solution here. And so maybe we have to spend the first 3-4 months educating people on that this even exists. This is an option. And then we've got to wait for them to build the stock back up that they want to get rid of. And so we're so focused on walking in somewhere and getting what we want that we're not putting in the work for that to start paying off. Which brings you back to, how do I create the stability? If I can start growing enough of these people the way you have, that's where stability comes in, because now you're creating a rotation.
Absolutely. And ask me right now how many people I met day 1 that presented me with 100 items. The answer is 0. How many people day 1 presented me with 1,000 items? The answer is 0. You only get people to 100 to 500 to 1,000 items by cultivating them and taking your time. And this is a months-long to years-long relationship to get people from 1 item to 1,000 items. This takes time. But like the best picker, most profitable picker that I have that makes more money than any doctor started with one item, and now he brings thousands of items per week. He started with one. And this is a relationship that we've been cultivating for 5 years now, since COVID. This is a relationship I started 5 years ago with one Vineyard Vines hat. And now he is El Presidente, number two in command of my entire wholesale operation, capable of getting thousands of items per week. So, like, if you're canvassing the area for stock, don't write off the people that are small time.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you want. You're small time and you got hustle and you know what to do. Okay, I'll take 10 from you this week. I'll take 20 from you next week. I'll take 100 from you in 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you want to grow alongside with. Those are the people that you want to invest in. There is not many situations where you walk into some magical door and someone presents you automatically from 100 to 1,000 items. It does not even 50 items, not even 20 items. So when you see on video that, oh, this guy's got all the connections, these are years long worth of relationships that I've had to cultivate and grow and farm and plant the seeds and invest in. This is thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've invested in these people. And I'm massively profitable on this investment because every single week I meet them and make profit. But this is thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into these other people's small businesses. So as I go up, they can go up with me. I want to bring as many people to the top as I can. And it starts with farming and cultivating and being patient and being a good person, paying people a fair price for a fair item, and putting respect on how much they're hustling and how much they're working. There are vendors, now that I'm starting to go out to the flea market more, I'm starting to go to different markets on different days. There are vendors that drive an hour away from their house to a different flea market on a different day just to source for me. Now I see them. I walked up on a guy who had a good item and I kind of like peeked at who it was. It was a guy who was going to sell it to me on Saturday. So I was like, great, good for you. You buy it, you make your premium. I'll see you on Saturday. And if you can have all of these people, an army of people all looking out for you because you've invested in them, you've made their business better, their life better.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
Yeah. I think this realization for me was so profound and it hit me so hard because I think for the first time ever, I could see the road to where I want to go. Like,
Sure.
I can see it. I know now step by step how to get there. And in a real world scenario, like I know in my real world what I have to do to get there. And it's really hard at the minute because we've only just planted the seeds. So
Sure.
there's a lot of effort and a lot of work going in and not much coming in for it. But
Yeah.
I know and I have so much confidence now in what I'm building in the long run that it's genuinely given me like a new hunger for my business.
Yeah. And like when people see the relationships and especially people in the UK, like, oh, like people want to do that. People don't want to do that. I made that happen. Like I built that. I've molded that. So like a lot of things that we have to do inside of our business, there's no blueprint. You
Yeah.
have to figure it out. You have to make it. You have to mold it. It doesn't matter where you are. No one goes to the flea market and molds a relationship that they know is going to pay off 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
years from now, indefinitely forever. Like you could do that anywhere in America. You could do that anywhere in the UK. You know who's going to do that? Arwen's going to go back over there. He's planting the seeds. He will cultivate these relationships and check back on him in 2 or 3 or 5 years. This guy, he's going to have so many shoes, he's not going to know what to do with because he's cultivating the relationship and
Yeah.
he's planting these crops. And all of this will pay off. It will, but you don't get the payoff without tending to the crop. You don't.
Yeah.
And tending to the crop is like, you might have to tend to it every day. Maybe I'm answering a text message every now and then. You have to tend to it every single week because they're depending on you coming through,
Yeah.
being consistent so they can pay their bills, take care of their family, take care of their kids. Like this is a constant thing that needs attention to make sure that everybody is happy, everybody is good. And like the most mind-blowing thing to me is like the people that I've started, working with on the videos that you guys have seen, like somehow they've all found the videos and like they all get a kick out of it. They all get a kick out of like, oh yeah, I watched the video. Oh, I didn't know you picked up that brand, but I saw it on your video. Here it is. Like
Yeah.
I've never told him about the videos, but like they've all figured out about the videos and now they're like, oh, I saw you get that in Plant City. I found it here. So like they're like eager to give back everything that I give to them as well, which like it has to be a two-way street. It can't just be take, take, take and expect someone to always give. So you got to give, you got to take, you got to be respectful. You got to pay people a good price in which they can make a living, earn a living, and just, give people the respect and the time and the opportunity to grow. And you'll find that most people will take advantage of that situation.
I think I was a little beat down last year. There was a lot thrown at me and like in being forced to do things and these type of realizations and these type of conversations just give me so much fire and so much hunger just to keep pushing and to keep going and to really keep listening because you can hear something. I've heard how you sourced for years now. And
Yeah.
it took someone else to bring a concept and
Yeah.
put it into that way for it to finally click in my head and go like, this is universal.
Yes. Yes.
This
Absolutely.
isn't just tech in America and Florida, people. This is
No.
a universal concept that can literally work anywhere in the world because
Mhm.
Sam's in the middle of nowhere in some abandoned.
Whole city in the desert.
I don't even know if there's other people there. Sometimes
Yeah.
I think it's just her, but she's out there killing her. And
Sure.
exactly the same thing. Like when I
Hmm.
listen to what she's saying, what she's doing, she's cultivating relationships, she's farming the area.
Hmm.
And so people will always say it's easy because you're where you are and you do what you do, or they'll say it's easy for that person because of where they are. The method is universal.
Universal. When I go to California, I find all the stuff because I'm using the same method. When I go to
Yeah,
New York City and go to New Jersey with no car, never been to the flea market, and find $50,000 worth of stuff, it's universal. It's because I did
yeah,
good business with them one time and then figured out, hey, this person's good. He'll pay me a fair price. I also have all of this stuff. And all of these
yeah,
things, they just kind of fall into place. And I think that it is absolutely universal. I think that it does take patience and it does kind of take an understanding that reselling is more like chess than checkers. That, like, I know that this is going to take constant work for many weeks, many years in order to fully pay off to where I want them to be, which is 1,000 pieces per week. I know it's going to take time,
yeah,
but that's okay. And a year ago when I started doing business with them, they brought one, two, three, five items. Now they're up to 150. Now they're up to 250. Give me time, let me cook, and I will have multiple people back at 1,000 pieces per week. And it's the same formula, it's the same recipe, it's not a secret, and it's just about paying a good price for a good item and letting everybody make money and just being pleasant to do business with. That's half the battle. And a lot of things that Arwen saw, and Arwen is very good at articulating it and taking notice of a lot of stuff. Having him here for 2 weeks kind of gave me like a big refresher of like a lot of these things that I've done for a long time or take for granted is stuff that Arwen has helped put into words and explain,
yeah,
and stuff that I now need to keep talking about and keep bringing back because I've done it 100 times. So like it's second nature. Whereas, people are trying to do it for the first time. And, the first time is just like the 100th time. And the product is out there, the people are out there. I think that we're just going at it and approaching it the wrong way. And that's
yeah.
the difference. It's just the approach.
And that's what I've realized. And I'm genuinely so excited for 2025 and to finally have the method to follow. It's just how many people are genuinely willing to invest that much time into something that doesn't pay off immediately. If you can be the person who's willing to do it, you will be successful
But
because
it does
everyone
pay
else is
off.
going to quit.
It does pay off because you do get the stock. So like the first item that I bought, a Vineyard Vines hat for $2, it paid off. I bought it for 20. The next week I went back and bought three of them. It paid off. I sold them for 60. The next week I went back and bought 20 items or 10 items. There is an immediate payoff, but like this grand pie in the sky idea that you can have someone hold 100, 200, 300 items, that payoff isn't till down the road. But
Yeah.
there is an immediate payoff every single time you meet them and conduct business and do a transaction and you buy a profitable item. It's just not the 100 items they're saving for me. That takes time because they have to build up their business and their bankroll. And most often, you also have to build up your business and your bankroll. So
Yeah.
like people also say like, oh yeah, well like, it's good to have enough money to have all of these relationships. Absolutely. But you have to build right alongside of them. So
Yes.
I explained to Arwen when, we found a guy who had a lot of hokas. Let's say Arwen only had $20. He went to the flea market, only had $20, which is great. I put respect on any amount of money. $20, I respect $20. He went out there with $20. He bought one pair of hokas. That pair of hokas he listed online and he sold for $75. He got $60 after fees. He goes back to the flea market next week. He buys 3 pairs of hokas. He sells those 3 pairs of hokas for $225. He gets $175 after fees. Now he goes back and buys 8 pair of hokas. 3 weeks. And this guy went
Yeah.
from 1 pair to 8 pairs. How many generations of doing this before you have more money than you know what to do with?
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long, but it does take a couple weeks to level up, to build up. And if you're buying items like hokas that are highly desirable, you can absolutely follow that example to a T. If you're investing your money into stuff that's not selling fast enough, if you don't have a lot of money, you should be investing your money in stuff that sells very quickly. If you are investing your money in stuff that sells a long time, you're doing a disservice to you and your money in your business. So the one hoka into 3 hokas into 8 hokas, and the sixth generation is probably 500 hokas. There's not even enough to buy anymore. Like that's how quickly it happens. But people don't have the foresight to know that like that's how quickly the snowball can go, so long as you're buying the right stuff.
Yeah. I agree with that. And definitely excited to see a payoff in our business as well. Ours is a bit different. We don't buy it one by one, but it
Yeah,
means when we hit payoffs, we hit it bigger,
sure,
you
sure.
know? And
Mhm.
having that mentality and finally getting like a visual of how it works for someone who needs to see things. I think we're gonna unlock a much bigger purpose in the business than we previously could have imagined.
But like the way that you source though in your model, it might be a little like feast or famine, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's fine. When it's time to eat, you got to be
Yeah.
prepared and you got to go eat. And when things get a little bit tight in between deals, that's okay too. That's
Yeah.
fine. Because 3, 4, 5, 6, eventually maybe 12 or 20 times per year, you're gonna hit it out of the ballpark. But
Yeah.
you also have to scale into one big hit per year, 2 big hits per year, four
Yes.
big hits, and that has to snowball as well. Because like if I told you and said, "Hey Hanley, I have the connection in Scotland, and like you can have deal of a lifetime every 3 days," you can't do it.
No.
But one day you could build your business to
Yeah.
placing that deal in a lifetime order once every 3 days. It just takes time. So, like, you have to cultivate and farm your own crop. You have to cultivate and farm all of these other crops around, and it has to be done in tangent with everything. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And that's the part that is difficult to understand. Like, everything needs to be tended to, and everything needs to happen when it's ready to happen on its own time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's
No.
not.
But I think our farms might be different, our location might be different, but the process is universal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And the stock is out there. You just have to put yourself in the position to be the best option. And you might have to start off small, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's fine.
I'm excited for 2025. I've got big goals this year, big dreams,
Yeah.
and I think we're definitely gonna hit out the park.
I believe in you. So if you say you're gonna do it, I believe you can achieve anything. And your success is ultimately important to me. So if there's anything that you need, I'm always here. And I do appreciate you always jumping on the podcast. I wish I can have you on more, but I understand that you're very busy. But I think that you always have good conversations, and it beats me talking to myself. So this has been a fun conversation to me, Henley.
I love bringing the bright ideas and hearing your take on things because your take on things are always so unique. Like I can take
You
my
think
bright
so?
idea to a room full of people and 99% of them have the same take. And then I take the same idea to yours and you are so left field to everything they said. And I just love it. Like the way you think about things or like the feedback you give me is just always so valuable and so completely out of the realm of how my brain works that it just helps me grow so much.
And likewise, all of those bright ideas and all of you guys, it helps me as well. My favorite is like when people have a bright idea and they like, I thought you were gonna say yes, and I say no, or like, I thought you were gonna say no, and then I say yes. That's the best. So I appreciate it. You got any final words for the fine folks at home?
Anything is possible anyway. It's universal. Success isn't exclusive to one state, one country, one person. It's out there for everyone to get. Success needs sacrifice, but you don't have to die to it. It doesn't have to be either or. All right?
Mhm.
Go after what you want to achieve. Be mindful of your surroundings and what's happening in the economy. You don't want to get caught out, but just it's out there, it's universal, and it's up for grabs for anyone.
I believe that, and I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you so much. Hopefully, we can get you back on again soon. And as always, be great.
Yes,
Thank you.
anytime.